All right, we got a fifth reveal, and now we are looking at a new champion in Taliyah. Weaving those walls in and out of Runeterra. Very excited to have Taliyah in the game. Actually already saw a tweet, too, where they're thinking about changing her graphics design, like with the actual card animations and stuff like that, just because they don't really go with her lore or whatever. Love to see stuff like that from the designer. Just, very aware of the look and the feel of everything in the game. But with that said, let's go ahead. Taliyah's going to be last, as always. But let's go through all the cards in the fifth reveal for the new set. Alright, so every new set release seems like it has some other iteration of the base amateur aeronaut card. This would give you one more health if you successfully predict a landmark. If we assume that this won't be elusive, and you're not going to actually hit a landmark there, the card still seems pretty good, giving you basically Laurent Protege stats with the predict effect as opposed to challenger, which I could trade those off. I could see that trade. You predict your next draw versus being able to challenge a unit. Overall, the card I think is good, but I don't think it's really going to be able to find a good place in predict or the landmark archetype. Like a lot of the other predict and landmark cards seem to go more so with those strategies. Like this is like right in between. Like it's kind of supporting both, and I'm not really sure how that's going to work out. Another card leading me to believe that some aggressive archetypes are going to come with, Shurima, Freljord, Noxus, all that good stuff. This makes me even more curious as to what the Shuriman champions are, right? We still have a lot more Shuriman champions to be revealed. Obviously, we had Renekton with Overwhelm, so that's going to be pretty good alongside something like Noxus or Freljord. This card is going to hinge on basically whether or not playing all of the landmarks that we're going to see in just a second is actually worth the payoff. At the end of the day, this is really just like a sort of improved Elixir of Wrath, kinda, and Elixir of Wrath doesn't really see play, so again, really going to rely on these landmarks here. All right, another 3-1 in the set, this time as a 2 cost alongside another card. The difference, you get a landmark when you summon this bad boy as well. The landmark effect itself isn't that great, but I do think it merits the additional, 1 cost for the 3-1 versus the other 3-1 in Shurima. That's only 1 cost. Where this really will come in big is in this landmark archetype that we're starting to see that's getting pushed a little bit here. In some cases, you might not even want Roiling Sands to destroy itself to give vulnerable to a unit when you can use it for bigger and better things. You can copy it with Taliyah. You can destroy it to summon other stuff with all these landmark cards. So lots to think about with this, summoning of a landmark ability. And now we have one of Taliyah's namesakes, Unraveled Earth and Roiling Sands yet again. This is another way of getting out Roiling Sands, and it's also, interestingly enough, another draw tool. So you actually get 2 Roiling Sands. So again, vulnerable also kind of, helping this overwhelm archetype. Keep that in mind as well. You can pull the smaller units. But the draw tool is super interesting to me. The region does seem to be getting a fair amount of draw, so I'm super curious as to what combo sort of decks might arise alongside predict. Because I think it's definitely a dangerous combo, being able to predict, put stuff at the top of your deck, and then also in the same region be able to draw cards. And now we have another landmark, and this one's the good landmark. This is kind of the pillar, so to speak, of the landmark archetype, Hibernating Rock. And more importantly, good old Grumpy Rock Bear, which now it's a different way of saying Loyal Badger Bear, apparently. It's just essentially what it is. I guess Bear is going to be the vanilla type archetype, right? So this is the landmark of landmarks for this archetype. This really goes together with the strategy. We're essentially paying 2 mana during our current turn to invest in something, summoning something, I should say, that equates to 4 or 5 worth of mana stats onto a unit, right? Because this is going to be a 5/4. It's not quite 4 mana. You might need to pay a little bit more for a 5/4. Might be more like 5 mana. It's listed as 5 mana on the card. Just saying. If played on your opponent's attack turn, let me make sure I get this math right. If you played on your opponent's attack turn, then on your 2 attack turns from then, you'll actually be summoning a Grumpy Rock Bear. It's quite a long wait, actually, in a game like this, Legends of Runeterra. And it's also the first time we've seen this sort of mechanic, like the delayed summon effect. All the other games have it. I know from my experience anyways, Hearthstone had something like this as well. Actually took Hearthstone a while to put something like this in the game. I'm not sure how this whole gameplay, like how Legends of Runeterra plays as a game. I have no idea how this is going to look. Generally speaking, from everything that I've seen, I think that this won't be nearly as good as some other card games. I think that having to wait the additional 3 turns is actually a pretty big drawback, but you never know. We'll see what else pops up in the set. Similarly, Salt Spire, another Grumpy Rock Bear thingy landmark. It's a shorter wait with a greater cost. So we're paying 4 now, only gonna wait 2. That actually seems pretty bad on the surface, but you do get potentially an additional +2/+2 added to an ally, which let's say that 2/2 costs 2, taking 2 off of it. Now it's a 2 cost. Now you're basically paying the same cost for 1 turn's less of wait for the Grumpy Rock Bear. I don't know. This one seems a little I don't know if you're ever really going to want to invest 4 mana of a tempo loss for a supposed 5/4 tempo swing in 2 turns. It seems like too much of a mana. Whereas the 2 cost, right? If we go back and look at something like Hibernating Rock, 2 cost doesn't seem as bad, especially if you're playing it on turn 2. That means you're gonna get it decently early on in the game, where a 5/4 is gonna be a lot more impactful. So I don't know. Salt Spire just seems a little for me. All right, now the fun card, Ancient Hourglass and Stasis Statue that it summons. And this is before we get to Taliyah, so we're almost there. We're getting there. This has the ability to be pretty game-changing and possibly even game-breaking as far as, archetypes are concerned. In the demo alone, we saw this bad boy summon, or have the capability of summoning 3 Taliyah. 3, that's right. 3 champions on board, no rekindler, no 7-cost rekindler needed, pretty easily. If you're not pairing this with Taliyah, this card essentially, like let's assume, because Taliyah can duplicate landmarks, this card essentially has the ability for 2 mana to dodge any sort of removal that your opponent targets on your units, right? So it's removing it from play for a turn, putting it in stasis, and then shoving it back onto the board. Sure, your unit's going to be gone for 1 turn, but that's a very short time for only 2 mana to basically delay stuff. It's kind of like a pseudo Glimpse Beyond in denying stuff like that, like a Lee Sin Strike, as an example, but you get the unit back instead of drawing the 2 cards. All right, and the last card before Taliyah is Desert Naturalist. When I initially saw this card, I only thought of the synergies that it has with some of the landmarks that we just saw. Just destroying like a sands, right? Jesus, I already roiling sands. Destroying a roiling sands, bring out not a badger bear, a rock bear. Being able to summon multiple roiling sands, for example, and then turning them into rock bears seems really good. However, this can also target your opponent's landmarks. This is really cheap landmark removal compared to, like, if you take into consideration Divergent Paths, which cost 3 to destroy a landmark. Granted, you can also draw a landmark. You're essentially getting a 1 mana 2/4 body on this, which is freaking good. That's good. Even if it's only 2 mana 2/4, that's still good stats, right? 4 health for 2 mana is really, really good. So value alone, I think this card is great. It's perfect. And the flexibility to potentially summon a 5/4 alongside it, also like super, super good. So I think, I don't know, I really like this card. I think this is going to be one of the best cards in the Shuriman set. All right, we made it. Taliyah, what do we got? Level 1, baby. She is quite clearly built to be specifically utilized with this new idea of like tons of landmarks in your deck. Playing multiple landmarks, right? Her ability to duplicate something like that Stasis Statue that we just went over seems ridiculous, all right? That is, I mean, you saw it in the video. If you guys saw the video, it's on the Play Runeterra Twitter. It summoned 3 of her. Now she's getting her effect procced so many times. But there's not that many great landmarks beyond that as of right now. There's not, like, Stasis Statue is a easy no-brainer. Sweet combo, right? The other landmarks only seem okay as far as like summoning a rock bear is concerned. They might end up being good, the rock bears, but I'm not sure it's going to be quite enough. If you do manage to level her up, though, her level 2 seems pretty incredible too. She has the ability to basically be her own finisher. if she's proccing multiple threaded volleys. So if we do that whole stasis statue thing, you get 3 of her out, which is kind of what the video did. You get the threaded volley proc, and if you have landmarks too, it's going to be multiple threaded volleys. I mean, if you have 3 out on the board and each one is proccing 3 times, that's 9. Suddenly the stack is full, which is pretty insane. Her champion spell, I think, is actually really, this is one of the better champion spells when taken into consideration the champion strategy. So it's a super good support card for the landmark archetype. From what I know, I believe, and again, don't quote me because we haven't actually seen the cards in play too much. I believe it works off your max mana, so if you do play it on turn 1, you'd only pick from 1 cost landmarks. Ideally, from the landmarks revealed so far, it looks like turn 2 is going to be when you want to play this, right? You want to discover a 2 cost. But see, this seems odd to me because, like, if you play it on turn 7, you're only going to get 7 cost landmarks. I don't know. I feel like my gut wants to say it's however much mana you have left over after you play this that you can use that turn. I don't know. I could be wrong. We'll see. But either way, the ability to randomly discover a landmark that, I mean, which there's not a whole lot of landmarks, so you're pretty likely to get what you need at that mana cost if you're able to pick the mana cost like that. I think this is a pretty good champion spell on top of her level 1, level 2. All right, that's it. We're done. That's Taliyah. Very excited to see the rest of the stream and champions, though, with some of these cards that were revealed. So we'll be here reviewing all of them, as always. So until next time, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.